Up, race was never a topic of conversation at the dinner table. Not because it was off limits, but simply because it didn't affect our livelihoods or safety. All this changed for me personally in 2020 when George Floyd was murdered, and I had to show up the next day to teach a room full of middle schoolers, virtually, who were mostly Black. I felt woefully underprepared for the assignment. And I was grateful that we had already convened a group of educators who were seeking to reform their relationship with teaching and race. We collectively designed frameworks and resources that we could then bring to our schools to bring racial literacy to math and science. I also learned through this group that racial literacy had to be a daily practice and a weekly practice. My relationship with race has shifted since I've transitioned into a new role. I am no longer the external, energized facilitator seeking to reform curriculum. Instead, I've become much more internal in my reflection as a DEI explorer. I serve 100% young men of color, and I've chosen to take a second seat in the building. On matters of leadership, I defer and I listen. On my physical presence alone, I've noticed, has the ability to alter the integrity of a space. And I take my cues from the Teacher's Lounge. The Teacher's Lounge, which is designed to be a space for teachers to feel at ease, I've observed how the simple addition of one white person has the ability to alter the topic of conversation, even if unintentionally. This has me wondering, what is it like to serve as a congressperson of color on Capitol Hill when 77% of voting members are white? I'm aware that there's a House Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which is progress, and I'm glad to know it exists as an affinity space. I'm curious to know which white male leaders on the Hill are allies and advocates of racial equity. How are they using their positional power to speak up for people who have very different lived experiences than they do? I want to join their scrum.